Says
Waste more time following the timeline.
I know.
Whatever.
Well, it says it's being live streamed, so.
And we're unmuted.
Yes.
Okay. I'll call this Park and Rec Committee meeting to order. This meeting and all other meetings of this committee are open to the public. Proper notice has been posted and given to the media in accordance with Wisconsin statutes, so the citizenry may be aware of the time, place, and agenda of this meeting. Roll call shows we're all here. Need a motion to approve today's agenda.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, we need a motion to approve our May 6th meeting minutes.
So move.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any public comment or correspondence? All right. Brings up town to date.
Okay, so these are the Dake and Minor Lake Landing lease agreements. You have copies of those in the handout that I gave you. They are due to be renewed this year. I think they expire, one of them expires in June or July, and one in August, I think. They're 20-year lease agreements. So we've already been doing those for 20 years. Same deal as the ones we did with the Farmington last year. They re-upped theirs early. So this contract has been gone through by Diane. It's the wording that was in the Night Lane one that she updated was added to this. So everything's good there. And the town has already signed these. So the Night Lane one, Dake and Minor have all been signed by the town, and the county has already signed the Night Lane one. So we just need to go through the process with this Dake and Minor Lake boat accesses. So basically it's the same thing we've been doing. The town owns these properties. We are just using them to provide a public access to the chain, a couple public accesses. So there's really nothing new in these that you guys haven't seen. So I guess I would ask if anybody has any questions
You said she made changes, the same as the one in Nightly. What you don't real quick what those changes.
She added a few things like the notification section. There was no notification section before, so basically it said you had to notify the other if you wanted to get out of the thing by a certain time. She added how you actually do that. What else was? Oh, then the front page they took out the. There used to be a line where you had to enter the date when this becomes effective, and now it just says effective after the last signatory signs it. There was I think, let me think here. It was something in the county usage.
Cosmetic changes then.
Basically, there's one that basically says, where was it? Oh, it was about liability. A county does not waive and specifically reserves its rights to assert any and all affirmative defenses, notice provisions, limitations of liability as specifically set forth in Wisconsin statutes, chapter whatever, and related statutes. So she had added that because I didn't spell that out before. Otherwise, it's pretty much the same, and yeah. I did add the survey information, so you can see that what it is, and then the only thing that isn't on the copy that you have is the cover page, the register of deeds cover page, which doesn't really have anything on it other than the parcel number anyway. So we'll put that on when we go to register all three of these, should you guys decide to move forward with it. So I think the process here is same as the Night Lane one. We're gonna go, if it's approved here today, it'll go to public property, then it'll go to the full county board for approval. So
Go ahead.
Do you lease, is the town leases it to you, if it's a lease agreement, is there a fee that we pay in the county? Okay, just asking, cause
Nope.
you know,
yeah,
those leases usually involve money.
Yep.
And then permits and money charged, so that stays in the county parks association for repairs and maintenance.
yep. Yeah, we're basically in charge of running that thing, and if there's any problems out there, it's our problem.
Well, yeah, sometimes maybe it should be listed that way, so it's easy to understand how it all works. Well, yeah, cause I
Yeah.
here and people
Yep.
wanna.
Yeah,
Anyway.
it is spelled out, and there's town responsibility and then the county's usage in here. So it does spell out who's responsible for what. Basically the town is just responsible for not like, you know, leasing us a brownfield site or something, you know, and so far we haven't found one. So
And I think they have some insurance liability too, I believe.
yeah, well, and it says in here too that the county must provide insurance for this site. I'm sure the town has
Yeah,
something
some
to cover
insurance too,
themselves too, but we are required to have this under our liability insurance, and we do. So
John, I have a question too. We talk about limitations on usage, and we talk about the ADA, basically Disabilities Act. You know, we've had so many problems in the past with people wanting to tie up their boats, and you know, as far as landing, they want to tie up their boats and stuff like that. And there's no dockage in either one of those landings.
and we looked at that. Well, how many years ago was that? Do you remember?
Yeah,
Yeah, it was. We had someone really pushing to get a docket, especially Dake. They were asking for, and there's just no room for it. I mean, we looked, and the neighbors, you know, all have their docks come in because you're on a bend in the shore of the lake, and you got this narrow little access there. There's no way we could put in anything close to a handicap accessible dock, which would have to be at least 5 feet wide, I think. So we just can't do it there. And we do have signage at both of these launches that say that there's an accessible launch available at Columbia Landing and Taylor Landing. So we at the time asked the DNR if that's acceptable, and they're like, yeah, you know, if you physically can't put one there, you can't put one.
So we're meeting the standards by letting people know that there's other sites available to them.
Right. You know, it's kind of like a parking lot. You know, you got sites is available for them, you know, if they need it. We do have sites available on the chain that they can use. So not many, but
what about the parking spots on the other side of, up on the top of the road?
across from Dake, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are that's in the county park. So
There's what, 3 sites here?
yeah, there's 3 or 4 depending on people never park well. So you could fit 3 even if you park kind of bad, you know, you could probably fit 4 easy if people parked well. So and in the past, back when Roger was here, I know they got yelled at a lot for trying to expand that parking a little bit, and you know, as trees died or whatever, they cut a few trees here and there. So I think they added like a spot at one point or another, but we don't really have any plans at this time to add any more parking there.
It's not highly used because it's so steep.
Yeah, it's like a, you know,
Yeah.
expert level launch. You know, you gotta be able to back down that hill all the way, and then it does drop off really well there once you're in the water. So it's a good deep launch if you need to drop a boat.
Okay, I just thought that's, in the past, we've had issues with that.
Yep.
Thanks.
And that was our workaround, was the sign saying they are available, just not here. So. Any other questions on those two? I assume we probably wanna, unless you wanna do it as one motion, or do you wanna do it as 2 motions?
I think we can do one motion accepting both agreements.
Okay.
Then it goes on to public property.
Jack doesn't have any questions, I'll make that motion.
I'll second
Jack. All right, so approve leases for Dake and minor. And move to public property. And county board.
What's that?
Approval.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
All right.
That brings us to Night Lane.
Okay, like I said, the county board approved it, so it is on our plate now. Pete's guys there, they put a box out, what was that, last week?
Yep.
So this
And a
last
sign.
weekend was the first box and a sign out there, a fee box. And a sign saying the fees required, and we had, I don't know, we only had a couple angry calls that I'm aware of so
Yeah.
far, you know, about, hey, what the heck is this? And but our guy working this weekend stated that there was kind of low compliance.
Yeah,
There
we're gonna
wasn't
have
too
to
many
get a-
fees paid.
Yeah, they think a state pass is good for that. So we're gonna have to get a sign saying it's.
So we're just, our plan was to come up with some little half sheets of paper, a warning slip saying, hey, you know, you do have to pay here and this is the county fee, and whatever other wording we come up with, we may have to change it a few more times. So that this year we're not like out there banging people for tickets left and right, you know, we're just gonna try and get the word out that you do have to pay, because it's never had a fee on it before. So there's gonna be some growing pains there, and then growing pains on our end for how do we enforce that. I'm sure there's gonna be people, you know, trying to lawyer their way out of paying a fee. Like, oh, I wasn't launching anything, I just had my vehicle there, or whatever, you know, I don't know. So I think, what does the sign say now? Something must display a valid
Yeah,
pass.
valid launch pass.
So it's the same kind of, I think it might be the same sign that we have at Taylor Lake.
Yep.
For the individual car parking, you must display a valid boat launch pass to park in this lot.
Okay.
Yes. So yeah, I'm sure we'll get a little pushback from the folks that use that regularly and haven't had to pay for it up to this point, but it's just gonna be part of it. And then
How much is the fee?
it's $5 daily, and then a 25 or 35.
Not used to paying.
Right. So I assume our little tiny, you know, Lime Kiln Crossing park there, it's gonna get even more use, you know, but it is what it is. This is the only way we're gonna be able to raise funds to be able to maintain everything and do all that. So then the town was talking about putting a fee on it anyway, so if they were gonna keep it, so I think it's just gonna have to happen. It'll be a little,
Yeah, this season will be a shakedown.
Yeah.
Cruise kind of to get the
Yep.
bugs out, get things worded right so
Yep.
that people understand it. And then next season, that's when we start enforcing it a little
Yeah,
more
We've got
strict.
porta potties out there already, a handicap one that they didn't have.
yeah,
That's
so.
$460 a month.
So we're picking up the bill for the porta potties already. The dumpster that they have out there, we're not gonna have a dumpster, at least initially, but they are already under contract until like end of August or
Yeah.
something like that. So they put in their 90-day notice or whatever. They already had a 2-year contract for that dumpster or whatever. So as long as they're already paying for it, they're just gonna leave that dumpster there. And then we already had one complaint about the asphalt where you're heading towards where they would launch a boat or whatever. There's a big, they said there was like a foot drop off at the end of the asphalt. I was gonna go out there this afternoon and look at it. And so somebody said a lady had kind of tripped and fallen off of that little drop. And I assume now that it's ours, you know, we kind of got to do something with it, even though that's part of what the town is planning on improving. But maybe we could get out there and look at it. I don't know if it's such a thing where we could maybe have highway come out and just scoop back some of that asphalt that's the lip, and then just throw some gravel in there temporary, you know. But we'll have to look at it and see what we can do. Maybe it's such a thing. I don't know how far away from the water where that lip is, maybe we can just add some gravel there to make it less of a tripping hazard, you know, so.
Closer to the bridge side, I think so.
Okay, yeah, I've been out there recently, but I just drove through the parking lot, kind of looking at the signs and whatnot, you know, but I guess I didn't really look at what was right by the water there, so. Yeah, we'll go look at it and we'll come up with something to make it less of a hazard.
Commercial,
Um,
commercial use.
well, for right now, we don't really have any way to deal with that other than they have to have an annual pass or something, you know, so at least it's something, you know, when those vans come and drop everybody off. As far as I'm concerned, the way we're looking at it is that van dropping off 15 kayaks or whatever, that's one fee, you know, because you're going off of the vehicle. Otherwise, you know, you have a 6-place kayak canoe or trailer, you know, that's not 6 fees there. I don't know how else to do it. So if somebody has ideas, certainly let us know. But and we've had that in the past where a lot of these marinas and stuff, they're using our launches. You know, Amherst Marine uses our launches. What is it, Columbia a lot?
Yep.
And Taylor sometimes. We've had people say, "Oh, you should have some different category for a commercial annual pass," you know, and maybe we should. I don't know. Apparently, to do that, some places like bigger cities on the Great Lakes and stuff, they'll have a commercial pass. That's a lot more expensive, but up until now, we've just required them to have an annual pass. So I think it's like Amherst Marine, they'll buy like 10 of those
Yep.
things each
So
year.
they buy multiple.
Yep. And then they put them on all their vehicles. And
Personally, I think that's the best way to go, because we're trying to encourage local businesses, you know.
And you're trying to encourage people to get out and do
And do
healthy
it,
things,
yeah.
you know, and that's where this kayak stuff comes in, you know. I mean, I think that's great. So as long as we have some equitable way to enforce it, you know, that we're not picking on one group or another, I think we're okay. So until someone tells us different. So
I think once the town starts doing their improvements, people
Yep.
are gonna appreciate it
Yeah.
a lot more too,
for sure.
and be willing to pay.
Is that?
I wouldn't go that far. Cause up until now, they had it for free, you know.
Free,
Yeah. So yeah, I don't really have anything else on that. Other than,
All right, brings us to 2026 capital project.
okay, well, towards the back of your handout there's supposed to be 2 pages of the draft July 2025 thing, which is our capital list, but you've got like 2026, 27, 28, 29, 30. So technically we got the 5-year plan that you see in the county level anyway. We do push it out 10 years just so we can do equipment rotations on there and sort of plan that ahead. But the last 5 years that you don't have is all equipment stuff. So pickup trucks and mowers and a dump truck and a trailer is all that's on those ones that are beyond 2030. So I'll just focus on this. I'll go over this year's stuff and then go into next year. The process here, I assume we'll get something from Heidi saying our capital will be due by the end of June or something like that. Usually is about that time frame, or end of July, somewhere in there. So what I wanted to do is talk about some of these bigger things and see where you guys wanted to head with some of them. So if we start with 2025 there, this is just an update on what's going on. I put little notes next to some of these. The pickup truck that's been ordered, that was at Dodge. The boom mower says we're getting quotes, but we now have one ordered. We got our 3 quotes and we got the go ahead from finance to go with that. So we did that. Should be, what did you say, like 10 weeks or something?
Yeah, it's out. Lead time to 10 weeks.
It'll be a little while, but we got it ordered. The tractor is already here. I think, what did you say, yesterday they were putting on fittings or
Yep,
something?
so it's 100% done.
So it's all, they had the wrong fittings on the hydraulic connections and stuff. So they were flat faced, like we said, but they needed to be the big industrial flat faced ones. So we got the right fitting, so all of our attachments should work and all that stuff. So that tractor is here, and we traded in our old one. So that tractor purchase is done. And then the brush chipper has been purchased a while back, and getting we have about 18 hours on that thing already. So it's the guys have been appreciating that thing. And then the White Lake Dam repairs and channel dredge. We did the initial digging out of the big clumps that were blocking the channel and everything. Highway came out the kind of the last chance we had this winter when everything was cold enough to where that dike was frozen solid. They were able to drive back and forth. We got that all dug out and stuff. It only cost us about $4,000 to do that for the day. I think I got all the bills from Highway for that. The next step here is I'm trying to find like a contractor that does aquatic species herbicide applications. There's got to be somebody that does that stuff. I just don't know. So I'm looking around for that. The idea being we want to treat the rest of the cattails and stuff that are around that dam, and then the stuff that was dug out, you don't get all the roots and stuff from that, so it'll start popping up here and there. And we want to treat that as we go chemically. So, but there's quite a process to get the permits to do that, and I'm going to look into what it would cost to have a company that does this stuff and does it right do the job where they would apply for the permits and all that stuff too. So we'll see how that goes. There's got to be some companies that do that. I haven't had time to look at it yet. So that's where the balance of that one's going to go towards, is trying to get the chemical treatment part going. And then the Keller Dam repairs, haven't really spent anything on that yet. I have an engineer that I thought was going to give me basically a cost to do the engineering part of what it would take to do the repairs on the dam. It was the same company that did the dam failure analysis out there in 2017. Talked to the engineer guy that did all that work, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'll get you a proposal here in the next week or so." And been a couple weeks, and I sent him an email last Friday here and haven't heard from him. So hopefully we can get somebody to give us a proposal on how much it will cost to do the engineering, to find out how much it would cost to do the actual project. So what I was told by we actually had a contractor out there that does dam work. When we looked at the outflow pipe and all that stuff, those people do the work, and they said, yeah, in order to do the repairs you need to do, you have to have an engineer draw up a plan, because you're going to change. If you don't do it right, you would change the flow and discharge rates and all that fun stuff. So he said you needed to have an engineer that specializes in dam stuff do a plan for the repairs. So that's where we're at. So that's all the 2025 capital stuff. So obviously that's this year. We're moving along. Kind of happy about all the purchases being kind of wrapped up. A lot of times, or at least since COVID, it's been sometimes, hey, we'll get that truck to you next year sometime, so everything seems to be coming in pretty normal like. So then we'll start on 2026. The easy stuff, as far as I'm concerned, is the equipment. We keep a rotation on our equipment, and this might be a good time to turn the page on your handout to the one that kind of looks like this. It's a chart of all of our equipment and lifespans, what we try and do. This is something we've been doing for quite a few years now. We keep track of all our trucks and mowers and specialized stuff and trailers, and we put a kind of arbitrary rotation date. That's that after mileage column, there's a rotation date if we're looking at the pickup trucks. And for trucks, we just kind of estimated around 10 years. And that seems to be kind of where if we unload them within 10 years or so, we never have those major repairs, where you got to replace a transmission or do all that stuff. So we're getting them out of the door while they're still functional vehicles. You get a fair amount on resale for them. Not obviously not what you're paying for them, but they're a 10-year-old truck that we've been using, and we can get some money out of it. Now, if you wait till something breaks in half and then try and sell it as broken, you're gonna get hardly nothing for it. So we put a 10-year rotation on trucks, and then we kind of play it by ear, you know. So if you look at that top of that column, we got a 2014 sitting there that we're gonna get rid of this year.
Yep.
Yeah. We were gonna get rid of that last year, but we just kind of hung on to it because it had a plow on it yet. We got to get a new plow carriage to be able to switch that over to, I think it's what is it, 17 it's going
17.
to? Yeah. So you can kind of see how we do that. Like the dump truck doesn't get near as much use. So we put a 15-year rotation on that. And that seemed to work out pretty good last time. Hopefully this truck lasts that long as well. But yeah, like I say, it doesn't get as much use, so we extended those out. And like I was saying, we can kind of push things as we need to. Mowers are a good example. Some of these, we have put an 8-year rotation on stuff. Usually when we're getting rid of mowers, they're still all functional, and you know, people snap them up, pay pretty good money for them because they're diesel. A lot of them are diesel. I think we got rid of our last gas one
Yep.
there. So they're all diesel mowers. You get pretty good money resale, and then we're, like I say, we're not dealing with breakdowns and things like that. We're just doing the general maintenance on them. So that 8-year rotation works pretty good. Some of them we were able to push back. Like the first one on the mower section, we got a 2013 1545 that was due to be rotated out next year according to CIP. Technically, the 8-year rotation was in 2021, but we've been the last couple of years, that one's been sitting up at the shop, and it's kind of our backup mower if a mower breaks down. And it's the mower that's being used by the solid waste department to do the PTF mowing and all that stuff. So it does get used and around our shop and stuff up there too. But it's kind of handy if one of our other main mowers breaks down, we've got this one sitting there that we can take if we need to. So we just kind of push those dates back as we see fit. So if a mower's in great shape yet and there's no reason to replace it, we'll push it back a little bit. So that's kind of how we go with all those things. You can kind of look at that. Under the specialized equipment section, we've got that 2001 ATV. We got that from the sheriff's department. I think that was a seizure or something, you know. We ended up with that. It worked okay. We had to repair quite a few things. Highway used it when they were doing all that tree planting out at Lakeview. What's wrong with it now? There's some transmission thing or something?
Yeah, like electronic shifting, you have to manually do it and it sticks.
Yeah, it's not the best, and we're gonna sell that thing this year. We don't really need an ATV like that. It was kind of handy for some things, but when they're doing, we were using it for storage for a number of years, zipping back and forth, and it was pretty handy. But they do that with the tractors and stuff. And it's, at the moment, we don't really need to replace something like that. That's why it's not applicable in the rotation date there. We didn't buy that. We didn't do anything to it. So we're gonna sell that thing here, get rid of it. The boom mower that doesn't have an hour meter on it. That's just a 3-point attachment. That's what we just ordered a replacement for. So that was a 2010. So we're right on schedule for that one, and it's kind of a good timing too, because that one that we've got, it's really hard to get filters for, and all the stuff is made in Italy somewhere, and it was low bid, you know. So the one we're getting now is got a breakaway feature and
Made in Ohio.
Made in Ohio, so we'll be able to get parts. Yeah, you said something about parts.
Yeah, their new thing is 72 hours. You order a part, you don't have it in 72 hours. They pay for the part.
Yeah, because we had where we tried to order filters, it was like months and months and months back ordered, and so yeah, that's that stuff. Our new tractor's listed on there. That's why we got one with 0 hours. That one we haven't really used for anything yet. And then that last section is trailers, and this is where we really push that rotation date. I mean, we just kind of arbitrarily, I don't know where we came up with 12 years, but like that, there's a box trailer, a 2013 box trailer. The thing sits in a shed. We use it, you know, several times a year. You know, we haul when they're putting all the garbage cans out and stuff, to use that for hauling that stuff around. Maybe if we were hauling some oddball things around, we might use it. Land and Water uses it for their tree sale every year. They go and pick up trees, and but it sits in a shed, so it's not outside getting baked by the sun. It's in like brand new shape yet. So we pushed that out to 2030, even though it would have been a 2025 rotation. We just kick it down the road because it's in good shape yet. No reason to get rid of it. And that's what we've been doing. Like this 2005 and the 2011, we got these two car hauler type trailers sitting out there that are non-applicable on the CI rotation date. We had that's already passed. We already replaced those trailers, but we have them. One of them sitting out at Lakeview, or both of them. So they're sitting in the Quonset out at Lakeview with all the rabbit stuff on it, all those cages and pens and all that stuff. Well, we had to move them every year, and they would stack them up in one place, and you have to stack them on a trailer and move them back over. So when we were getting rid of these trailers and replacing them with new ones, we just stacked all that rabbit stuff on there, and then we can move it easily over to Lakeview and
bring it back.
yeah, bring it back around fair time. So we would like to do some things with that in the future, where we think we could get her down to one trailer pretty easy if they would get rid of some of their old stuff that they don't use. But we don't know what they use and don't use. So that's why those are not in the rotation anymore, because they've already been rotated. They're kind of bonus trailers right now. And if we ever get rid of the rabbit stuff where they got their own building, or they don't have to take that material out and put it back, then we could get rid of those trailers and sell them. You know, it's amazing what people pay for used trailers. It's like they'll pay almost what you buy a new one for, you know, for a 15-year-old rusty trailer. I don't get it. So yeah, this is pretty much all the bigger equipment that we've got. And this is how we go from this sheet to this sheet in how we place where trucks and mowers and stuff need to be purchased. So back to this sheet, long-winded explanation of how I got to the first part of 2026 here. So we're scheduled next year to replace a pickup truck. And I'd always used to use a 3% annual inflation on these prices, so I could kind of kick a price down the road and figure out 5 years down the road how much something would cost. But COVID and all that stuff and the supply chain changes. The one year there, I forget which years it was, just a couple of years ago, our trucks, we bought one for $40-some thousand, and then like the next year was $60-some thousand for the same truck. You know, it was like $20,000 more increase. And funny thing, it stayed that high, you know, so it didn't go back down. So I changed my inflation to 5%. And last year it worked, it came pretty darn close. I put 5% inflation next to a bunch of these things, but that's the number I'm using for now until I see that it's not working or something. I'll change it again. So, and then we do have another this more 4-wheel drive 5-foot deck. That's one of those front deck ones. Right now we've been buying John Deere 1570s or 1570-10s or whatever they are now, just because they're the only ones that really fit our spec. It's diesel. Those front deck ones are 5-foot decks, and the reason we don't go with a 6-foot or whatever is a lot of the parks, all those rocks you put around parking lots and stuff, you can get through with a 5-foot deck, but not a 6-foot deck. So, short of rearranging all of our parking lots and stuff, we keep using a 5-foot deck for stuff. And a lot of the parks are pretty lumpy, bumpy, and you'd be scalping with a 6-footer. And we've tried with our zero turns are all 6-footers. And you do scalp a lot of places when you're using those. So that's up next year for a replacement. And now the ones that we need to talk about, this docks at Taylor and Columbia Lakes. These are the two big landings that we have accessible docks at. We had a number of years back put 25,000 out there, And I think this was originally scheduled to be done last year, or the year before, but we pushed it back because of these agreements weren't updated. Now that all of our launches are updated, we can look at spending some money on these launches. And I can apply for grants for these kind of docks as well through the Wisconsin Waterways Commission. So I will do that. But this 25,000 that we have there, I don't think is gonna get us where we need to go for replacing those docks out there. And just talking about Taylor Lake in particular, it's pretty long. And the bottom there is all that marl, and I don't know how deep that marl is, but it's really deep. And when we put an extension on that at one point with their 4x6s that we drove into that marl, and as a kind of a fun story, built this little contraption to bolt onto the post so you can use a jackhammer and drive those things down into the marl. So we're hanging over the water with electric jackhammer. Could have ended poorly, but it did work. But what I'm thinking would probably be more of a proper dock for that site would be a floating dock, and then you'd have something out towards the end to anchor it, that would take in and out. Some of those floating docks, supposedly you can leave them in. I don't know if you'd want to do something like that with that long of a dock. You'd probably have to take it out in the fall sometime. Otherwise ice shoves can really ruin those things. So I think what we're gonna do here, we're gonna bring this capital stuff back for next month, because I think that's when we have to have that approved for the budget process. We're gonna reach out to the dock people and find out what would be the best option and get some ballpark figures, because I'm pretty sure 25 grand ain't gonna cut it for one of the docks, let alone both of them. So the one at Columbia, you guys kind of redid a lot of that. I don't know.
Yeah, we kept the pilings and made it more ADA compliant, lowered it,
Yep.
and redecked it all.
So, I mean, we could technically not do that one and push it down the road, if we wanted to, if you think that's gonna hold up for a while,
Yeah, it's.
Because the pilings aren't rotten or anything,
Nope,
right?
that's why we
Yep.
decided to just strip it and redeck it.
So that site's a little better for that because it's a little shorter dock. And like I say, the one at Taylor is just, it's so long, and the area where it's all been power washed out, it's so deep there that that whole dock kind of does a little boogie for you when you're out on it, not terribly stable. And I just,
That lady put the pontoon on it 2 years ago.
I drove a pontoon boat up on it. They were able to do a good repair, but still, a floating dock, I think, kind of like maybe it wouldn't have to be as industrial sized as we got at Gills and Shaw's, but a heavier duty and commercial floating dock would be the kind of thing that should be there, because then it's always at the right level. Not that the chain level goes up and down a whole lot, but it's those things can float a little lower in the water, because it seems like some years stepping off the side of that Taylor dock is pretty high. That section we put further out is a little lower, so that looks kind of goofy too. But then a few years back, the water level was up so high that it was almost, it was to the bottom of those boards.
Some of those commercial or industrial floating dock got big long pipes that go in and
Yep.
out, and it keeps them kind of.
Yep. You guys did that with that kayak dock out there at Big Falls, right?
Yep.
Those got like the screw
Yeah,
in
big
kind.
auger.
You got a little auger on the bottom, so you
Yeah,
kind of crank them into the mud, and
Right.
so
and then they're still easily to come out.
Yeah, we just take a big pipe
But
wrench.
it adds that extra stability, and they still float up and down on them.
Yep.
Right? So, yeah.
So I think that's kind of what we're looking at, and I'll task Pete with finding getting a quote on
Yep.
something. We'll have to measure up what we got out there. So we'll bring back a number for that, and if it's all right with you folks, maybe we just take the Columbia Lake one off of there for now.
Well, if it's fixed well enough that it's gonna hang in there a couple of years, we might as well.
Knock it down the road and worry about it later.
Yeah,
It's
concentrate on the
pricey.
one.
Well, and that one, like you say, as long as the piles are okay, that one's got a little more solid ground under, that you're putting them in. Those piles are pretty solid. And what did it take you guys, a couple days? And
Yeah, we reject it.
Pile
We
of 2
put
by
some,
6s?
Like grab handles for handicap, and no, I think it's really solid.
yeah, so I mean, something like that, even if we had to redeck it in another, 8-10 years or something, it's still, it's good. So I'm gonna take that one off Columbia Lake. All right, and then the Taylor one, we'll get a couple quotes or whatever and come back with a budget number for that. I'm pretty sure that 25 is gonna be a little light. So the next one is the big one. Well, big for a question for you folks is the Victor A rental shelter. We talked about this years ago, how we could get more people out to Camp Victor A, what that site would support for a different kind of use out there since we shifted gears from camping. So do we want to pursue this shelter? I'm sure 150 ain't gonna get us there, and especially with putting a parking lot in and all that stuff. I think it's a really good idea. I just don't know if right now is the time. That's on you guys, whether you want us to get some newer numbers and then come back, or do we want to push this out a couple more years, or what would be your pleasure for this kind of project? I'm just wondering with all the, if I had to guess, it'd be at least twice that for not much of a shelter, by the time you put a parking lot. I bet we'd spend 150 just putting a parking lot in out there,
Working on the new park in Caledonia with a shelter, it's more of a pavilion rental type thing.
Mhm.
That we were talking about. That's gonna cost Caledonia about 1.1.
Yeah, so even on the low end, like if we spent $500,000 doing something, I think you'd probably come up with it would be nice, but I just don't know if right now is the perfect time with remodeling the courthouse and all that stuff, and for something that we don't have now. It's a new thing that we're talking about. So,
And two, if we come in with 587,000, which we know is low, and then you put the true price in there.
Right.
Not a good thing.
Yep.
Not right now.
and that's what we got to talk about, and that's why we're. What I like about the capital plan the way it is the next year is the one that matters, because that's the one where you're voting on money, right? And it's got to go to county board, so everybody gets a kick at it. But really, our request for parks is you folks, and the one that really matters is the next year. Now, anything we put beyond that, we can get it on the radar for the 5-year plan, and that's fine. But it's like play money until you start talking about next year.
I do think we need something out there,
Mhm.
besides the small little buildings. But last year when we had the event out there, those little buildings were kind of nice too. But just like a normal park shelter that keeps you out of the rain, right? We need at least that out there, big enough if you bring your family out that you can't. Well, my family wouldn't fit in one of those
Yeah.
little shelters.
Yeah, I don't know, I think Victor A is a beautiful, beautiful place, and I think it's lovely, but the way I keep looking at it is all the restrictions that are labeled onto that thing. What can we really do to, and I agree with a lot of things Pete says, but damn it, every time we come up with a good idea, and I think that park is beautiful, but all of a sudden, all these restrictions come in and say, "Oh, you can't do this," but maybe you, blah, 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 and I guess I'm kind of against anything that goes up in that park that's going to cost any amount of money. Because what are we going to be able to do with it?
Well, we pretty
There's
much
still
got
issues on all the land and who's using
We got-
it.
No, we got that all taken care of the last time when we we're still debating about camping or not. We got all the legal,
Well, that's what I mean. It's
Yeah, we got
beautiful
that.
park,
we got that all squared away. We know exactly what we can do out there.
but it ain't much.
Well, but now that we're not camping, it's whatever any other park has, we can do out there. So that there are no legal restrictions in that sense.
Yeah, if money weren't an issue, like I think that would be a great site for a nice shelter building where you could, and a parking lot where you'd have enough room to have like weddings and family reunions and stuff out there, because you got so much river frontage, it's beautiful out there, and the trees and everything. You got a big field. Great idea, this shelter thing. I just don't know when the best time to ask for that is.
Just a plain Jane shelter. Really no sides to it. Just a roof and a solid floor. See what that would run. It's.
Yeah, probably the timing is the best with our 5 to 8 year project at the courthouse, so that's gonna be hitting everybody. I don't know, I see a lot of parks, I don't see kids in them, I get a little frustrated, so, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's parks all over there, nobody else.
Yeah, in my mind, it'd be kind of a shame to, like, you look at, if you're familiar with the little shelter we have at like Manawa Boat Launch right there on used to be the pond. You got that one, and then there's the one up at Keller. Those are that's in my mind, that's kind of what you're talking about. An open sided, I don't know what that is, probably 24 by 30 something maybe.
Woods is the same way.
Yeah. So yeah, the one by the Woods Park there, right on the Crystal River. So you can do something with that, but that's pretty. Well, you maybe fit like 4 or 5 picnic tables under there. It's not a lot of people. And in order to get into the point where people are going to come to something to have an event there, other than just like somebody, maybe like a small birthday party or something, you need something a little bigger. I'd hate to go and spend this much money and then have something that no one really wants to use. Well, if you spent that much money, then you'd have something that would be more useful. I don't know. So yeah, I mean, we'll do what you guys ask us to. It's just a matter of
Come back with a price on what you're thinking and talk about it.
John,
A more accurate price.
electrified, we have electric service.
The little ones.
I'm trying to think. No, none of the ones we have. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Yeah, Keller, no. Then Manawa, no, and the Crystal River one doesn't either.
No.
So yeah.
The little ones out at Vic are power. They have
Yep.
power.
Yeah, we could have power.
Yeah, power and water.
There's like, what is there, 2 or 3 electrical meters out there?
Yep.
Yeah, so there's power out there. We could do that there. That's why I kind of, if you could enclose it somehow, you maybe get those shoulder seasons, where just an open shelter, you can't. I guess you could, but probably not going to be able to rent it very easily. If you're trying to charge for something, Like I know Portage County, they've got in, Jordan and Emily and all those things. They had some of those open shelters. Well, they redid them into enclosed shelters so they could use them, basically year round.
Yeah.
Couple of them aren't insulated, so you can't. But having that enclosed part just makes it so you can use it that much longer. And there's a lot of bugs out that way, So
I guess it comes down to, do we spend a little money and have something that maybe somebody uses, or not spend that money at all and just push the project? Because a shelter house that you could use all year round would be amazing out there.
Mhm.
We could put cross-country ski trail out there. We could do all kinds of add-ons if we
right.
eventually wanted to, but if you stick 250,000 into something, and then 10 years later you wanna do something more grand, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah, then you kind of shot yourself in the
Yeah.
foot, you know?
I think we are evolving, because I remember when, because I lived by Harold Anderson by the golf course, he put that outside gathering, an open shelter, and that was busy every weekend of the summer. But in the last 3 to 5 years, it's never been,
Since COVID.
because everybody is using, they just start using it. They used to have class reunions, they don't have anything, they all want a sheltered place. How is one at the fairgrounds? Is that booked every weekend?
Oh, you're talking the pavilion building? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So that's what people want.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe you're right. Why, if it's not what you really, the people aren't gonna use now, save this sited building, because maybe down the road, 15, 20 years, maybe that's the place. There's people looking for events, places like that, cause where do you go? Where they can, you don't have to, yeah, I know, it's
Yeah, if we
wedding
could-
venue.
If we could plop that pavilion building out at Camp Victory with some parking,
Yeah.
it'd be rented out all the time, you know, but that years ago, and he didn't have to like do hardly any prep to build it, you know, that was still like a $500,000 building, you know, and now it'd probably be twice that at least to put up, you know, not let alone we're entirely wooded out at Victory and it's all clay soils and so I'm guessing all those extra things are gonna be extra, you know.
And we shouldn't probably be in competition with the private sector either. But if it fits in what our plan is, maybe,
Yep.
That's all. I'm not,
Mhm.
because someone else could do the same thing. I understand that. So anyway,
So that's the discussion we're having. So I guess if you guys want to think about it, we can talk about it next month when we come back.
Yeah, let's do that. Kick it around again next month.
Give you time to think about anything there, and then we can do some final rearranging and stuff. So the next thing on there, last thing for 2026 is the Manawa Bridge project. Now I have 300,000 there. That was just kind of a spitball number, and because I don't know what it's going to cost to do that bridge. There should be grants available for that kind of stuff. At least 50% grant. The recreational trail aids should qualify for that kind of stuff. If that was already a snowmobile trail, which it can't be because they can't get across that bridge, you could qualify for snowmobile grant. You still apply for a snowmobile grant, but because it's new miles, they never get to the new miles category for funding. So chances are pretty slim you get a snowmobile grant on there. But then the next part that bothers me a little bit with that is the DNR owns that bridge, you know, so should the county be throwing, you know, even if it's half of that, 150,000 at a bridge that we don't own, you know, I don't know. It doesn't, and I'll have to look back and see how I want to say that one in Scandinavia, because that one was really expensive. The one that goes over the highway on the Tomorrow River Trail. That bridge was pretty spendy, but I think it was entirely paid for through grant programs. So snowmobile and recreational trails or whatever they called it back then. So I'm going to talk to our DNR people and find out what they suggest the right approach would be to get that done. I'd like to get that bridge done as soon as possible. I think it's a really good connection, but how much should the county put into something like that? You know,
I would talk to the DNR first, to find out what they want to do.
Because that's an important piece to keep that trail going, but it's a state trail.
yeah, and when we do like
I know.
other projects, where we spend a bunch of money on something, it's like, well, at least the county owns it.
Yeah.
We spent that money on that, but when it's a DNR bridge, that I don't know, this doesn't sit right with me. I don't know. It's like the DNR should pay for it. You know?
Right.
How much railroad is all that? There's still some rail in all the way to New London, right?
Yeah,
Where does it end? Right at Manawa? Is it still in at Manawan?
They took it out where the road crosses. They took that road crossing out, and they actually, that spur that goes up to the, behind all the buildings and stuff to the north side of town, they took the track off all that.
Okay.
The only
so-
part that there's track on yet is from just past the highway intersection there with the trail out to the other side of the bridge. It's actually on the bridge yet, rail is. So,
Yep. As I think it's right by the co-op was probably where it starts, where it's still in.
and
They don't, the Storms just have they got a big warehouse. Is it, they don't use it, or do they get shit in out there by the warehouse?
yeah, and I was actually talking to Jay just the other day.
Cause that was the reason they left it, cause
Yep.
Storm was still using it and they were still getting stuff in.
Yep, and he's of the
That's why-
opinion that they're never gonna use the rail again, so.
Well, I know, but he's also talked that the rail company's never gonna get rid of it again either, so
Right,
I don't
right.
know. Cause who knows, down the road, there'll probably be different means of travel.
And most of these things, like the DNR, they own that bridge and the right of way and all that stuff, but I'm guessing in those, there's some provision in there that if rail had to get through for some reason, it's, they have priority, you know, so.
But right now, the snowmobile doesn't keep going down the railroad track. It comes there.
Yeah, just before
They gotta
Wolf
run
Road,
it,
it
so
drops
they come
down.
around,
the
they
highway
park
and-
by the parking lot, yeah.
So I don't mind if we, as the county, take point on it, but
Yep.
this should be more of a multi-group effort to get it done, including the state and snowmobile clubs and whoever else likes that Tomorrow River Trail, if they want to extend it. 'Cause I know that there's a group in Manawa that would like their trail to connect.
Yep.
Like I said, we can take point, but I'm not comfortable
Right,
going to the county board and saying, hey.
yeah, this
And
is,
it's one link, and then once you hit New London, then you go all the way to Green Bay.
yeah,
So that's why there's still a section missing in this link, so
Yep.
it's not a push yet. That's all I'm getting at.
yeah, if they ever abandon that line
Yeah.
between Manawa and
Yeah.
New London, then you have connection all the way to Green Bay.
Then the
you know.
state has that.
Yep, so I think it's I just don't think this is a next year money kind of thing, you know? Maybe we strike that from the project list for now until we find out how we could fund it in different ways. Like I say, I just don't see, doesn't sit quite right spending county money on a state bridge,
On a state trail.
on a state trail.
Our trail
It
on
isn't the
either side.
Wapaka County trail, it's
Yeah, so I think that's the best approach.
I'll just take that off the list for now. We can always add it back
Right.
next year. If something changes, we could add something in there where the county would pay some smaller portion of it, you know. I wouldn't be against the county kicking a little something towards it because it will help the Manawa area. It'll help that whole trail system, you know, but,
I think we need more partners.
Yep.
To go at that.
Okay, so, well, then we got 2026 pretty talked about there. 2027, again, some equipment stuff. So the pickup truck there, and then the North Lake Bolt launch upgrade. So in the past, we actually went so far as I went and got a permit and everything to do this. We were gonna do it, and then we kicked it down the road because it was still okay for the amount of traffic you get at North Lake. What do you think, Pete, as far as that launch, you know, as far as what shape it's in?
It's rough.
Yeah. So, we had 45,000 set aside, and that would probably get you close to a concrete slab type launch there. The other option is to replace what's there, because right now it's that concrete log stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And those things get bunched up, they get heaved by the ice.
Some of the chains are broke.
Yeah, as the chains rust away that connect them together, they get all, and then you have holes where people's trailers drop into. We could look at doing another kind of chain thing. I mean, they lasted a long time. Problem nowadays is people power loading, they wreck everything. People must not have done that in the past. I don't know, because these things used to last, you know. But nowadays they got more powerful bolts and whatever, and they power load on those trailers, and all the sand in between those concrete logs kind of goes away, and then they get all out of shape. So if you would like, we can well, that's 2027, so we got a little time to think on it. We can look at possibly doing it cheaper, because I know somebody recently looked at it. I think one of the towns reached out to Highway to replace a launch with a similar kind of the chain concrete thing, and it was a lot cheaper than a poured in place. We did White Lake, they did the bigger slabs, or they're about 3 feet or 4 foot wide slabs by however wide it is, and not impressed with how that one's holding up. It kind of, I don't know, anything less than a poured in place slab is kind of a compromise, and you're gonna end up paying for it later. Now with the White Lake one, now it's kind of bumpy, and now you got these big concrete slabs that instead of the concrete logs, where those concrete logs you kind of hook them with a tractor or something and move them around a little bit, but those big slabs, you're not moving those. The problem with poured in place, which is in my mind the best, is you have to dewater. So you have to have the sheet pile people come in and do a big thing, and that costs as much money as the launch does. So it costs about twice as much. So we'll look into different options. Maybe there's something better out there that we could do that's cheaper. I know in like the Mississippi River, they've got these big chained together concrete things. They almost look like pavers, you know, that they have holes in them, and they have stainless cable that runs through them, so they kind of conform to the ground that they're on. But I think with power loading, you'd have the same problem, you know, as people blow out all the fines around them, you'd have a hole, you know, it would sink into it. So
I heard of one place that I don't know how it would hold up. It's like GeoWeb. I don't. They put in between those things, and then they pack them with bigger stones. So it's like a honeycomb plastic thing.
I've never seen it in the water, but yeah.
Yeah, and they put that in there, and then probably doesn't wash out as fast, but I don't know if it wouldn't eventually, knowing how people.
Right. Yeah, it's just a shame that people do that, because otherwise there's really no reason why these boat launches should go bad at any time, you know, for years and years until those chains rot away, you know, rust away. So
It's so much easier to do this than this.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, we'll look into some different options for that and get a little more updated price on what that might cost for the different options. But that's not critical for this discussion. The Red Horse Barn roof, are we close, or do we want to kick that down the road a little further? I don't know.
Did some patching on it last year over the fiberglass skylight things that were rotting out. I mean, it could easily be pushed.
Yeah. So I guess we can look at how things are balancing out. We'll leave it on there for now. And
Can you get that replacement skylight stuff? Was shaped with the tin years ago when they put it.
Yeah, I couldn't match that.
Cause it's not strong. You can step on
Oh,
it, you
yeah,
go through.
you'd be right through it. So I just put tin over it.
Yeah.
We had some stuff out at Lakeview, some short cutoffs, and it was just long enough to
Yep.
match that style of roofing.
Yeah, cause you don't want anybody walking on that.
No.
Oh, they're there.
yeah.
Them are the first to go. The roof's fine, let them go to heck, yeah.
So we'll reevaluate that roof and see where we're at with that. I know that one, since they had it, like I don't know what kind of fasteners they used or something, but Roger was always complaining fasteners are falling out, and we had,
Still are.
yeah. So like, I assume maybe with all those problems, maybe there's something a little more, you know, like the trusses or whatever is underneath there, or maybe those things are getting soft. I don't know. So we'll look into that a little further. The Powers Trail development, I think we're pretty close to being good with as much as we can do for now on that. We still have a little money carried over on that, so we're gonna keep on going as much as we can with that. We could leave it on there for now, or we could take it off and put it on again later if we need to, but right now, I don't think we need that on there. So we could strike that from there. All right. So that's 2027, 2028, we got a mower. And then this Keller Lake Dam and White Lake Dam inspections, those are just what it says. It's we have to do our 10-year inspections on those. The Keller Dam is required because it's a large dam, and I think White Lake is required just because of the size of the water body, not because it's a large dam or anything. But so every 10 years we have to have those inspections done, and so that's what that is. And that wouldn't be capital. Obviously, it's $8,000, so that'd be a line item in our budget that year. I just want to put it out there so we don't forget it. And then the fairgrounds horse arena fence replacement. Those you guys have been doing a little bit here and there as things break, but it might be a good time to do something a little more. Maybe we'll have a horse group that knows exactly what they want to do, and by then it changes every few years as different people get involved. And so over the years we've had to put more sand in and take less sand, and they wanted less sand, and then they wanted rails this high and then rails that high, and so whatever, kind of roll with it. And so this will give us an opportunity. I assume a lot of those posts that are in the ground are kind of getting towards the end of their lifespan, maybe 20 some years that they've been in the ground. So leave that on there. Then the manual boat launch install fishing pier. See my comment there. Maybe by then we'll know if
Nobody's using the boat launch now.
right. So like right now, it doesn't make any sense. But at one point, if you're looking at where the boat launch is now, it goes right into the deepest part of the channel. That's a good boat launch, real steep. You can launch any kind of boat off there. But then if you go to the left, if you're looking at the pond, we were talking about putting something out on the edge of where that channel goes out that way, to kind of goes across where the pond was. If we put a fishing pier straight out there, you can catch that drop off and some shallows on the side. So we talked about putting a fishing pier in there for years, and we just wanted to get it on the radar.
Be easy to install right now.
Yeah, you'd be up. Yeah, I never really realized it was quite that deep. Like
Crazy.
Yeah.
Did you see the Manawa Park over there now? They're like about a feet of mud.
Yeah. So I didn't realize that pond was that deep. I mean, I know a lot of it got scoured, but even so, where that channel's going now, it's a long ways down. So
They're still kind of bumping heads on what they want to do out there.
I think it all come down to money. Who can come up with it. If they can come up with the money, they'll maybe replace the dam. If not, I don't know. So a lot of same thing with any dam pond. When you take it out, you're gonna have all these property owners that used to have lakefront, and now they don't. So people that have that stream running right next to them, it ain't so bad. But the people where the stream is across there, you got a quarter mile of muck in front of you. I don't know. So we'll see. So we'll leave that one on there. We can maybe strike that once they make their decision there. And then once you get there, I think 2029 is just some equipment. The ski trail grooming rig. Obviously, these last few winters, we didn't get a lot of miles on that thing. So we talked about pushing that further out for a rotation date. So we'll see when we get closer where we're at with that thing. And then this tractor here, this is our little John Deere tractor. So that'd be a 15-year rotation already. Wow. But so there's that, and then mowers and trailers. And I think the last one that's a project is 2030 on this list, and is rebuild and repave the Joaquin Trail, which obviously 180 grand ain't gonna get you there. But maybe we get a little closer to that. We can look at what it would take to at least prioritize areas, cause I'm guessing some of it'll still be in okay shape, but some of it's gonna be in pretty rough shape. So, we'll work with highway when we get closer and
Is paving the way to go with this? Don't we have some areas that continually need repair or?
probably the worst spot is like just after you leave the high school property, going up that hill, you're heading towards King. And you're getting to the vet's property there. That hill, I think when they built the highway, they buried a bunch of stumps or something out there because we keep having sinkholes on that grade and everything. And we've replaced that several times where we dug it out. I don't know, is there still a gravel spot in there?
No, it's paved.
Okay, they repaved over it.
You can tell the transition.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of like a neat little jump for all the little kiddies, you know, as they're flying down that hill. So yeah, we'll just have to kind of play that one by ear too and monitor it as it goes. Yeah, maybe there's other options. The majority of it, I think it's paved is the way to go. I mean, basically all you gotta do is mow the edges and maybe crack fill every now and then.
That
And,
trail gets used a lot.
and it does get a lot of use. So, I think if you went to gravel, it'd be a little,
Especially in that spot.
yeah, I think on that hill,
The hill, yeah.
we would have trouble keeping gravel on that hill every time it rains, so. It's just a matter of, whenever all those stumps they buried over there or something, somebody secondhand told me that it was a highway guy who was saying that they buried all kinds of stumps when they built that section of road there. So whether that's true or not, I don't know, but,
I remember when they were doing it, there was a lot of trees.
There was a lot of
that
trees,
they
all
just
trees.
Pushed.
yeah. So there's a real good chance, cause, at the time, who cares, you know, it's way off in the thing, but then someone built the trail over top of it, so. Is what it is.
The roughest part of the trail is in the city limits next to the cemetery.
Oh, sure, yeah, and we don't take care of that part, so the city does that part, yep. Yep, so, yeah. And like I say, the second part of that is all just mowers and trucks and stuff, so we don't need to do any kind of motions or nothing. I just wanted to talk out that big project and a couple other things with you folks, so we can get the ball rolling on our end. So any other questions about capital stuff for now? Okay. Number 9.
Number 9. Anybody have any reports or anything they wanna talk about or? Okay. Project updates.
Pete, you wanna say anything about boat launches or anything?
Well, I mean, we've got our summer help started now, so we got 2 people. Ryan Kempert out of Iola, Olivia Trinrud out of Manawa, and they seem really good so far, so couldn't say enough good stuff about them. And Fairgrounds is hopping, like every weekend, we've got 2 or 3 events. Like this coming week, we've got graduation parties in Keene Sierra starting. Following week, we have a circus, 2 graduation parties, and then rabbit people have something going on again. So it's Fairgrounds is really busy. Boat launches, you know, last weekend was the first big weekend that we saw at Night Lane. We tried to tell everybody that we could. It's not a state park because they want to use their state passes. So I'll get a better sign that specifies, you know, saying it's a county park now versus what they were used to, but we're going to be pretty lax on trying, you know, not writing tickets, just.
Yeah, this
Getting the
season's
word out.
information.
Yep.
Yeah.
So there'll be some growing pains, but we'll get through it. Rest of the boat launches, and it's starting to slow down in Fremont because the white bass are starting to die off now. So, but it's definitely picking up.
Okay, and then the courthouse remodel, I guess since last time we met, the parks guys and myself, we moved up to the shop. That went pretty smooth. We got all our computers hooked up and they all worked, and we got our copy machine up there. We had 2 in the office. We took one, and yeah, it's working out pretty good. Everybody, we all fit up there, and we kind of kind of sorted things out a little bit now to where we got room for most everything that we need to have, and it'll just make it seem that much better when we get to move back into the courthouse. So I was pretty excited yesterday when it was all silly hot outside, you know, and it was like 65 degrees in the shop yet, you know. There's no air conditioning up there, but it stays cool for a long time. The problem is once you get a long heat spell, yeah, then it's gonna stay hot in there for a while, you know. So
They make them barn fans.
yeah, we want to knock first if you come when I'm up there. Walking around in my boxers like, ooh, so hot. Do you have something, Jack?
Yeah, I have a couple comments, no answers or suggestions. This weekend I went down Gills Landing, of course, checked it out. And I understand if white bass are biting, jumping in the boat to clean, but whatever. The kayak launched on there, you couldn't have got near there to put a launch if you wanted. There was 10 guys standing on there fishing, and the whole park area there was cars parked solid all the way across. And I know it's marked on the highway, but we're on the concrete, but I don't have an answer on it, but I understand why all the fishermen were there, because the white bass were white, but then again, you came with a canoe or a kayak, you could have got anywhere near the thing, so just something to think about. The other thing I don't know, anybody, why we got notice, it's a volunteer group, I don't understand yet, I gotta get more answers on it, but they're redoing that silo. Everybody knows that silo was painted 10, 15 years ago and it's been fading pretty bad. It was starting to look pretty sad. But this group from Quebec County here,
The Wolf River
local
Art
group
League.
of artists,
Wolf River Art
up
League.
there doing it. And I looked at it yesterday, they're doing a beautiful job putting that thing back to life with the same pictures, color brought back out of them. And I see now they're looking for, there is, it's the Indian heritage up there, but there is a picture or painting of an Indian maiden. And now they want to know more about who that Indian is and what the name is so they can put something on the lettering down below. I thought that's pretty amazing what these people are doing. And I know I was involved when that first got painted. It was close to $50,000 to get it painted. And now they're redoing it and painting the whole thing, enhancing all the colors. It's really, when they're done, it's going to be beautiful. And I don't hear no money going anywhere. It's a volunteer artist group or painting group, whatever. Just comment, that's all.
They're out of New London. It's the Wolf River Art League.
Yeah, you're right,
They're the
it's a
ones
league.
that are responsible for all the murals and stuff in New London.
Well, yeah, and I guess they're doing something more back too,
Yeah.
or something. Really. What they're doing there is amazing. I thought we end up tearing that silo down, but no, they're really sticking out again. Pretty.
I had a question on the fairgrounds, the Veterans Bash, Backyard Bash.
Yep.
We're having that out there. Is that going smooth, that they're talking to you guys and making sure that they know what
Because
you
that
guys
follows
need?
fair.
Yeah.
And that was my worry is usually we have that transition when fair's done, takes a couple weeks to get everything, stuff happens during fair.
Mhm.
And we talked with them and said, like garbage pickup, sometimes they get like the football team to come through and do it. There's gonna be such a short window, that's gonna be on them to pick some of that up, even if it wasn't theirs, and they agreed to it.
Okay, good.
So,
And they've been good working with the folks in the office too. I know he's come in working with Jen, and I signed some papers. I don't know, hopefully I don't get in trouble for that, but about getting a helicopter to land or something. Apparently the property owner had to like sign off on something for if they're gonna land it. They were trying to get a Black Hawk to land out there or something from the military. So I don't know. I was like, well, whatever. I'll sign whatever. Hopefully I didn't pay for it. I don't know. But
There's the bill for the Black Hawk.
yeah. To leapfrog onto your boat launch thing, we have boat launches on here. So I was just gonna say we were contacted by the DNR the other day about we do have at Gills Landing, and just so you're aware, at Gill's Landing, there's certain spots like on the piers or the docks there for getting on and off your boat or whatever. We do have some no fishing
Yeah.
painted on there, and then we used to, at least on the seawall.
I was gonna.
There's
write
some
them up until I said
Yeah,
that.
there's some stencils that say no fishing on there. Well, someone reached out to the DNR complaining about the people fishing. I assume it was a complaint was the people were in the way fishing, and the DNR took that to say, well, you can't restrict where people can fish. You know, it's like those are public waters and that's a public place, so they got to have the right to fish from everything out there. You can't say no fishing. And I was like, so I responded to this DNR guy saying, you know, we put those out there for safety reasons because people don't. I didn't say it exactly these words, but people don't seem to have the common sense to get out of the way when a boat's coming. If you're standing, we don't care if they're standing on the end of the dock fishing when there's no boats. But if a boat comes, they have priority to that dock. You know, some of these people fishing, like Jack was saying, you know, the people on the kayak dock and stuff, they won't get out of the way. You know, they'll be mad at you because you're screwing up their fishing. You know. So we have a few little spots that we have no fishing painted right next to the boat launches on the docks, just so the boats have primary access to those areas. Well, this DNR guy was kind of like, well, you can't do that. So I responded, it was safety reason is why we painted that. And I gave him some examples and I invited him to come out on a busy weekend and check it out, you know. You should have said during white bass run,
Yeah,
you know, then you get to see the conflict, you know. But and that's been every year, you know, when the fish are going through, you have boaters getting mad at the fishermen get mad at the boaters, but it is a boat launch, you know, so that's, in my mind, that's the primary focus for that public property right there. Is it's a boat launch, that section in between on the seawall, fair game, you know. And I said we even put fishing pole holders on all the piles and stuff, you know, so we're not discouraging fishing. We're just saying go over there and fish, you know, so that people can get in and out of the boat launch. So hopefully we don't get any more flack from that, but we'll see. They said we had to remove all the signs and any lettering and all that stuff, you know, and we'll see. So like I say, that was just yesterday, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, so hopefully common sense will prevail on that. And that was, courthouse remodel. Anything you want to tell the rest of them about courthouse remodel?
Well, I did get a few questions about the price tag was 39 million now. And somebody wanted to know why. I thought it was a $35 million project. And it was, but then with inflation and everything, it drove up the price. But fortunately, Heidi and Mark, we got the money and we invested it basically. And the interest from those investments brought it up to the 39 that we need to do the project. So it was good business on their end, and we can get and that's the base project. That is the you know, we took all those extra, they call them add alternates. Hey, if we got the money, can we do this or that? Those are all off the table now. The only thing is we're just doing the basic building project that we started out. So figured get that.
Asbestos is a good example.
And that came out of nowhere.
Yeah, well, that's upset.
That one, because the building was built when it shouldn't have any asbestos in the building, but it was just right at the transition period too. So somebody just grabbed the wrong can of adhesive off the shelf, and that's why it's sporadically throughout the building.
Or they just wanted to get rid of it.
Yeah, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. But we also have, it's sort of on the low end, but we have a couple of $1 million in that budget for cushion in case other things like that come up. So hopefully we can come in under budget, and then that money goes back into the county. So, yeah, those really that was the big questions I've been fielding the last few days, so. Anybody have anything else? Okay,
Motion adjourned.
our next meeting, July 1st. Now we have a motion to adjourn. It's non-debatable, we are adjourned.
All right, so 10:25. All right, let me turn this thing off.